What's up, guys? Welcome to take two of episode 2 of Real Life. Unfortunately, it is still real life. Response to the last video was actually pretty good. Some of you were not happy. I will address that in due course. I do feel that I should acknowledge that my position has always traditionally been to keep politics totally away from the channel, for the obvious reason that it does divide people. It's a very hot topic issue. But I'm going to qualify why I did leave it in and why I stand by it as briefly as I can, because after today's video, I'm hoping that politics doesn't have to touch the channel again for a very long time. We'll also talk about what's going to be coming up on the channel, what we're going to be doing next, and yeah, just what's going on. So in general, most of you were quite positive about the last video. I appreciate that. I was opening up about a genuine issue, things that were actually happening in my life, and it's always good to have that warmly received, because just being myself. But there was two or three. There was two that were very sort of clear, and one that sort of was a bit more ambiguous. But it seemed there was sort of three of you who were really bothered about some of my positions that I took in the video. Now, first of all, politics only came in the sense that I felt I needed to qualify part of the issue I was explaining, which was, the traditional issues facing men. Well, in the sense that you aren't supposed to talk about stuff, you aren't supposed to be unable to cope, you aren't supposed to admit any sign of weakness. That traditional problem has been layered over with the fact that we get the blame for a lot of stuff in today's society, and that somehow our problems are not as important as those of a lot of other groups in society. For clarity, my position is and has always been merely that you don't meet an extreme left-wing position by adopting an extreme right-wing position, because that's stupid. Some of you have probably now written me off as a big old lefty. Now, I was in my teens, I'll be quite honest, but these days and for the last few years, I'd certainly put myself centre-left, in the social democratic sphere. I think the middle ground often has the answer, that the land of compromise usually takes the best ideas from both sides and removes the unworkable and extreme positions. I don't think you get anywhere in life by adopting extreme positions where you won't even listen to the other side. As soon as I see anything that contains the word libtard, no, I'm sorry, but no, that's dismissing something rather than engaging with it. It's saying that either you're too lazy to comprehend what the other person's trying to get across, or you've just completely closed your mind off to it. And the only victim of that is you. I will always listen to a right-wing position, always. And in fact, I've changed my mind on many issues based on input from, usually centre-right politicians rather than far-right politicians, because a good idea is a good idea. And I'm not someone who just subscribes to this idea of, trigger warnings and safe spaces and all that kind of stuff. I believe good, sensible left-wing policy doesn't need to shut down debate, because it doesn't need to be in a bubble. It can survive on its own because it's good. You can defend it. It can stand up to criticism and whatever. And I've never been a wishy-washy sort of person. I take my time, I do my research, I figure out what's important to me, what I believe, and then that's the position I adopt. So I'm not going to apologise for what I believe, although I will concede that this channel is probably not the best place to discuss it. And I hope you'll forgive me, because it really felt at the time I was making the video that it was important to discuss it in a little bit more depth, so you knew what I was talking about when I said, when I alluded to the issues that men face when trying to deal with problems in their lives. So, yeah, I'll never apologise for what I believe, and neither should you. That's my position. I'm pretty firm on it. Back on the topic, though, there have been some other questions. Before we go any further, actually, really important point, something that we really do have to touch on before we go any further, and that is happy birthday to Pedro Diniz and Heinz Harald Frentzen, two of my favourite 90s F1 drivers. Both had a birthday in the last 7 days or so while I was out with flu. The flu is gone. I'm feeling much better. I wouldn't say I was looking any better, but I'm definitely feeling better. Although I've woken up this morning and my left shoulder is, it's fucked. That's the only word I can think of. It's just fucked. If I move my left hand above sort of elbow height, I get a shooting pain all the way down to the end. And you might be thinking, well, maybe you've strained something, or maybe you've injured your shoulder, or whatever. But to do that, I would have to do things. So I don't know. Maybe I just slept on it funny while I was lounging on the sofa, throwing popcorn into my mouth and watching bullshit on TV. Maybe I just sort of overstretched myself. But what that does mean is, because I'm right-handed and holding a gamepad's no problem, it means I can get back to playing games. So once I'm done with this video, I'm going to try and start putting together some gaming content, and let's pretend this is a gaming channel rather than a vlogging channel, just for 5 minutes. I guess it'd probably be F1 2016, but I do want to start some new stuff quite soon. There's a lot of stuff out there that I actually do want to play on channel. I still want to do Space Station 13, but I can't find a way to record it and make it look good. So, especially for those who watch on mobile. I mean, I don't know what you guys do, and I'll be honest, that's the one sort of demographic statistic I get from Google that I never look at. Where you guys are watching, desktop or mobile. I really should look into that, but certainly on mobile, I think it would be unwatchable. But yeah, F1 2016 and Grand Prix World are the strong candidates for being the first videos to come back. And then I still think a third video being in the mix makes a lot of sense. And hopefully something not motorsport related, just to tickle the fancy of those people who sort of drifted in from Hearts of Iron 4 and Crusader Kings and some of the other strategy playthroughs that I've done. Excuse me. Right, on to some questions that I'd received while I've been gone. Now, I won't be able to tackle all of them. I've got them written on a piece of paper right behind you, and I'm hoping that my eyes are good enough to read what's on there in a way that doesn't look like I'm ignoring you. I keep trying to look at the camera, but it's actually quite hard because I end up my eyes gravitate to my handsome face. I'm doing it right now. So there are many questions for me to address. And I want to try and hit on some of the oldest ones first, and then we'll play catch up as these videos come out. Now, the first one is actually one that I've answered before, but obviously the person who asked it has missed it. It's buried somewhere in one of the Grand Prix World episodes, and obviously we're in the high figures now for those. So the question was essentially, do you believe it's a viable strategy within Grand Prix World to put all your staff on a single deal? And I guess this is someone who's been watching the Minardi playthrough and is maybe thinking maybe he wouldn't be in such a weak position if he'd put all his staff on a single deal. I still don't subscribe to that theory. I know I am aware of people who play Grand Prix World who very firmly believe in that strategy, that they sort of target a single sponsor and they throw all the power behind it, and then they try and close out the deal as quickly as possible. I've never really experimented much with it, but I have very little faith in the method. The reason for that is that when you come into negotiations with sponsors in Grand Prix World, you don't know before you go in, usually at least, unless it's an existing sponsor, you don't really have any idea of what your relationship with them is or how effective your staff are. And you'll see this when you play yourself, because sometimes you can have a really poorly rated commercial team. Maybe they've got morale issues, maybe you've just got bad staff, which, particularly under the backmarker teams is a burden you carry for a few years. And then suddenly they can close out a team sponsorship deal in 3 or 4 rounds and completely blow you away. But that 1 or 2 star budget sponsorship deal, it takes them half the season. So I will always spread my guys around, because you can see after a round or 2, okay, this deal looks promising, this one isn't going anywhere, and you can begin to shift your resources around. The only problem with that is, particularly with Minardi and Tyrrell, is that 1 to 2 rounds isn't enough with them, because often they're so underpowered in the commercial department that you have to go a good way into the season before you really get a feeling for how it's going, and then you have to make a decision with your gut. This isn't going the way that I hoped it would, do I stick with it, or do I pull out now, try and cut my losses, and try and pick up somebody else? And there's always a risk in that. That's part of the difficulty of the game. That's part of the strategy. So I'm still. Oh, got a notification there. I'm still a firm believer in sort of not putting all your eggs in one basket. If you can, once you get to sort of midfield tier, you should always spend your first round talking to multiple suppliers from each category, and then you can sort of see who's offering the best deal or the most achievable deal, and then you can decide how you want to spend your time over the season. However, I must stress that's not the only way to play the game. So I'm not going to stand here and pretend I'm the all-knowing authority and that's the only way to do it, because it just isn't the case. There are plenty of people who do it that way. Maybe you try it. Let me know how you get on. It's just not something that I subscribe to myself. Right, I'm almost out of phone memory already. I've still got 2 questions to go through. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and actually spend time to clean out my phone now, instead of pissing about trying to delete 10 fucking photos and record another 2 seconds. I will go and deal with that, and then these 2 questions will go into episode 3, which I'll do probably this weekend, and I'll make that sort of a bumper Q&A, particularly because my answer to the first question was so much longer than I had anticipated before I pressed record, that there's no way I'm going to fit good answers into the remaining 2 questions. So we'll have a bumper Q&A episode this weekend. Again, guys, really grateful for you sticking around. If the last video was unforgivable for you, then by all means, hit dislike, hit the unsubscribe button, do as you will. Otherwise, for the rest of you who really don't care or are quite happy, that's awesome. I'm really grateful for your support. I'm going to go make videos for you now, videos that are gaming videos, what you come here for, and not this, which you didn't. You didn't sign up for this. No one asked for this. It just sort of happened. You guys have a great afternoon. It's a bank holiday in Germany tomorrow. Maybe it's a bank holiday where you are. If it is, have a beer for me. I'm certainly going to have one for you, and see you soon for some video action. Probably some more tomorrow too. Toodles.